Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Here's something that I was not planning to shoot a video about, but I have it here and you guys may see photos on the Instagram or on Facebook of me building this coming up in the next month or two or six. So I thought, why not take a look in the box? I've seen other reviews of this kit on the market or on YouTube already. I'm not the first person to get it, but I want to take a look at it from, I guess, an aircraft modeler's perspective, an aircraft modeler who occasionally dabbles in sci-fi. So I won't give you all the details about, oh, this nut is off from that bolt, or this panel is off from that panel, or this pilot doesn't look tall enough or something. But we'll take a look at the parts, we'll take a look at the instructions, and I won't say exactly what I'm going to build out of this, but safe to say it's probably not what you're expecting. Anyway, this is AMT's new studio scale, or studio series. It's studio scale-ish. I think studio scale is 1/24th scale, but this is 1/32nd scale. It's 13.5 inches tall. It's kind of hard to convey to you exactly how big this thing is, but as we look at the parts, you will see. So I'm going to get this box open. It is actually super full of parts here. I did have a brief look inside here before. The instructions were on the bottom, but I was too excited. So shout out to my friend Kishu over at Burbank House of Hobbies for getting this to me. And yeah, we're gonna take all this stuff out and we'll take a look at it. So be right back. Okay, so we're gonna have to do this in an organized fashion. So as you open the box and you look in it, you're greeted with a literal mountain of plastic. There are 4 bags of these sprues, which make up the 2 wings of the iconic TIE Fighter, the big square solar panel array type wings. There are 4 of these. I'm gonna get these off the desk in a minute. We'll take a look at one bag and that'll be representative of everything. You get one of these bags. You get kind of AMT slash, I think Polar Lights also does these, like these dome stands with a metal rod. This is the big size. Obviously, you're gonna need it because this thing's the size of a toaster oven. So I'm gonna get this out of the way immediately. And then you have another bag of what I can describe as, I guess, the pilot and some interior details. You get a fist-sized fuselage plus the wings together. They come in halves. Take a look at that later. This is the clear parts. Obviously, you'll be adding framing to a clear, essentially a disc. And then this is the floor, should you choose to do lighting. I haven't thought if I'm going to do that yet. I've never done it before. I'm afraid of electrocuting myself. So yeah, decals in here, and obviously the instructions. So let me get this all off the desk. We'll take a look at the instructions and decals first, and then we'll look at these sprues. Okay, first up, the instructions are on this sort of regular size paper fold out and fold it in half. So this is the AMT Studio Series 1/32nd scale TIE Fighter. There is the kit number, AMT 1341/06. Little blurb about instructions, don't eat the parts. And we're straight into assembly. So obviously pretty straightforward here. That's the pilot. This is the cockpit, his little control yokes, the instrument panel, instrument thing. Then installing place in hands, obviously, and then putting the pilot in place. And here, this again is molded in clear. So should you choose to do a little like underglow, under lighting to make it sort of glow in the cockpit like it does in the film. I don't recall exactly what it looks like. I don't know if it's like a red light or if it's like a very dim white light, but this floor is molded in clear. So you could potentially sort of, I guess, mask that grid pattern or the lines and then do a very dim LED from the bottom. I don't know how that works. I've never done it. So yeah, that's step 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this folds out this way, so that's not confusing at all. Oh no, wait, here we go. Okay, so go in here. This is the assembling of the inner cockpit. So it looks like some detail parts going on the walls, then 2 kind of sort of clamshells coming in together to form the inside of the cockpit ball. Then this is the front, adding in some more details, and then clamping it or sandwiching it between those 2 sort of fuselage halves, if it's called a fuselage on a TIE Fighter, and then adding various little greeblies and details to the fuselage. More on the back and the bottom. Then going to the back, adding yet more details. This is adding the sort of cockpit framing and the glass. So this is the top hatch, so it's an inner hatch, the clear, and then the outer plastic, sandwiching that clear disc in between. The front is just a clear disc going in, and then this going over it. I know in the movie, or when they did the filming miniatures, apparently they didn't have clear glass in there, but personally, I always want to use it on my models, just while it keeps the dust out, and also just kind of looks more realistic. I guess on screen they wouldn't want it because of glare, but in my scale collection, I think it looks better. So adding in some more details on the top and some details on the hatch. And finally, where's the end of this? So finally, we get to the wings, which are massive, and they come together in this sort of interlocking puzzle type process. So you assemble the inner solar panels, and then you add the sort of spokes and the central hub afterwards. Now, I don't know if this is going to be, if you're going to be able to paint kind of the black of the solar panel first, and then add this, because that would definitely help with masking. But then you're going to have to make sure when you're doing this whole business here with something that's literally the size of like a cutting board, make sure you don't get glue on the already painted black areas. So I don't know, maybe you're going to be better off just masking. I mean, they're massive, so it's not like you're going to be struggling to mask a minuscule object. And then obviously at the end there, adding both wings onto the central body, and then sort of plugging them in with the last little hatch or cover detail there. And then yeah, some more models from AMT and PC, and that's it. So that's the entirety of the instructions. And now we'll take a look at the decals before I get the parts out. The parts are massive, so we'll look at sort of sprue by sprue. It's not a giant chaotic mess here, but the decals, again, are actually, there's a lot of them. So these two are kind of cool. These two are like, I guess that's like a front-facing camera and a rear-facing camera. The front camera has, I guess, the trench image on it. So, I mean, if you're going to be able to see it through the canopy, that kind of limits your sort of abilities. Or maybe it's the same, just you get options if you want to do a trench run or you want to just do like space. So that might be better. These are sort of the little red designs over the black triangles that go on the walls. Then some service stencils. These look like actually like lifting points that you would see on traditional fighter aircraft. Some more little just busy detail. I don't think that actually says anything. It's just more like codes and numbers and some busy detail to make things look like something is there. But yeah, so instructions and decals. We're gonna get some of the parts out, we'll lay them out, and then we'll look at those. So be right back. Okay, we're back here. We're gonna look at these parts first. I still have the wings over off shot here, just because these are so big that I don't think it makes sense to look at all of it at once, also because it doesn't fit. So we'll look at the clear parts first. I can put these away and not get these damaged. This is a clear sprue. You get, it's not very many parts. This is obviously that clear molded cockpit floor, like I said. I'd have to check references and see how that grid pattern lights up in the movie. It's molded in here, and I mean, obviously there's some ejector pin marks on the bottom, but I think the actual clear parts show some kind of a light, or the actual line recessed parts, they're recessed from the top. I think they actually show some kind of a glow from the bottom, but I'll have to check. These are the kind of the windows. They're molded as, I mean, basically clear styrene discs. This one does have some holes, or like little dimples molded, or yeah, they're holes molded into it. So yeah, I think the outer framing is going to kind of latch onto this, and then this gets sandwiched in the middle. I'd probably paint the outside framing first, just so you don't have to do a bunch of complicated masking. But yeah, these clear molded parts are completely free of distortion. Everything is completely fine with those. You can see the rest of my bench. Maybe a little bit of distortion in that one. But I think, again, if you don't light the inside, or even if you do light the inside, you're looking into the innards of a very tight sphere. So I don't think it's really going to matter. But yeah, couple of little, I think these might be the kind of the ion torpedo launchers or something. Two of these are the engines, I know that. And then, yeah, so that's the clear sprue. I'm gonna get this out of the way immediately so I don't do something bad to these clear styrene discs as I put them away. Okay, we'll take care of that later. Anyway, so obviously the two biggest parts here are the fuselage halves. Yeah, it's a front and a back. So this is obviously the front. You have the two little, I guess, laser ports right here, and then the engines at the back. So everything, this is gonna lock together like so. I'm not gonna press these together. I think these are almost like a snap together press fit. So I don't wanna get these together and then have to pry them apart again. But this should give you an idea of how big it's gonna be. So this ball here is, I mean, yeah, my fist is fitting inside that like that. So you get a kind of a scale of some small hands in there. But outside here, you get molded detail. It's not like, I guess you wouldn't say it's like Bandai quality molded detail, but this is 1/32 scale. Bandai, all they could manage was 1/72 scale and tiny stuff. So this, I think, painted up, you mask some of these panels off, get a little bit of multi-panel effect going, shading and stuff like that. I think it's gonna look really nice. Plus, this is the basic fuselage. You're gonna add a ton of all these little molded details and dimples here. You're gonna add a ton of little greeblies to this and really busy it up. But other than that, this is a solid piece. So once these two get glued together, your wings are gonna plug into the outsides here, and there's gonna be an outside cap that holds them on. But again, the inside of this, not much to really write home about. There's not any crazy items going on in here. One of these pegs is broken off in the back, but you're gonna be gluing along this entire seam here, so I don't think that's really going to create any major issues. That also being said, this is a pretty large space in here. I don't know how much space the cockpit's gonna take up, but I suspect that you're gonna be able to get in on the bottom of this and do lighting under the floor, lighting for the engines and such like that, or lighting for the engine out the back here. So yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna like this again, but we'll see what happens. So there's the main fuselage. We'll get that out of the way too. And then we come to this sprue. This was the next bag. This was originally attached to this, but I cut it off because it was hanging off a tiny little sprue point there. I didn't want it to break. So these are kind of the central, I guess these are the central hubs that the wings attach into. You can see where the spokes plug in. So this is molded in super hard plastic, and you can see a lot of busy details on there. I'm sure some Star Wars aficionados out there will be able to name what kits these came from or what they represent, but I am not one of those people. But all of that is going to paint up and weather up beautifully. These are the little caps that go on the end here after you attach the wings to the fuselage, I think. This is one of the inside pieces of the canopy, I believe, the one that faces out. So some cabling and busy greeblies there. I would say paint that up, give it a wash, dry brush it. I think it'll look great. But yeah, no flash on the actual parts. Everything is very solidly molded. The sprue attachment points, contrary to some other AMT kits, are not gigantic. So nice. There's that. That out of the way. This sprue is another, these are, I think, the inner cover, or the inner pieces of the wing assembly that, again, you can see the spokes are going to glue into. This is the side that faces in, I believe, towards the fuselage. So again, very crisply molded details. You can catch some in the light there. So I try to get an angle for you. So yeah, no flash, no mold issues. Everything is sharp. This is one of the inside pieces of the cockpit. Got details there. Again, I don't know if any of this is accurate or exactly how accurate it is, but yeah, I think if all this stuff painted up, I mean, just the scale of this thing, I mean, one of these, you can tell from this at least how big one of the wings is going to be. So yeah, this is another piece of the inside sort of inner fuselage, I believe. This is one of the hatches. So this is the bottom, I believe. I think this is the bottom. Yeah, that's the bottom. And then that clear disc will go over this, and then this, I believe, goes over that. This is obviously the front sort of canopy or front glass. So the clear disc is going to sandwich in here. You can see the little pins where it's going to lock in, and then this whole assembly is going to get glued to the fuselage. So I think you could probably get away with painting this whole assembly first, attaching the glass, and then attaching that whole unit to the fuselage. You're going to have to be careful painting around this though, so up to you. But I wouldn't want to mask all of these unless obviously someone's going to come out with a mask set, right? So probably solves that issue. All right, we're going to get this out of the way too. These are absolutely huge. Next, we have this bag. So these 3 sprues, this is obviously the pilot, standard sort of Imperial garb. He does come in halves. I don't know if they had any lights coming out of their helmet, but this would technically make that easy to do if you wanted to light him in some way. His arms, I don't know what this exactly is, but it obviously goes to the pilot. There is a little bit of flash on that. You can catch it there. You can catch it kind of on the edge of that molding too. And also on his sort of arms, you can see a mold line running down there, but you could take a scraping tool, an X-Acto knife, and make sure you clean that up. Also on his glove, you can see it really clearly there. So this one, not as cleanly molded as the other sprues. I don't know if this came from an older kit or if it was just not done as carefully, but yeah. I mean, you're going to be assembling the pilot anyway from halves, so you're going to have a seam to clean up anyway. So not the end of the world, but that's the pilot. Next, we have some of those greeblies that go along the outside of the fuselage. So you can see some here. I think there's some like shaped indentations that these will go into. Various details there. These are all very sharply done. There's no flash on these. Yeah, backside, nothing too crazy to talk about there. This is more details, including the seat that the pilot goes into. You have, I guess, the bottom of the seat, the back of the seat, the control yokes, I believe, of some kind. These, again, have some flash on the sides. You can catch some of the light right there. But, again, if you're going to be cleaning up the pilot and all that other stuff, this is just a little more cleanup, right? Again, not fantastic, but this is, I mean, keep in mind, it's AMT. It's not Bandai, it's not Tamiya, so you kind of getting where it came from. So more details. These are obviously for the outside of the fuselage. You have some other little vents or greeblies or other items that go. These, I think this goes on the inside. I could see it by the side of the cockpit module. So yeah, I'm gonna get these out of the way real quick, and then we'll take a look at one of the wings. The wings, I will take one out of the bag and attempt to kind of mock it up for you here, if it'll fit, and then we're gonna wrap it up that way. Okay, and you join us back here to take a look at the last sprues in the kit. So you're gonna have, I believe, 4 bags of, I guess, 1, 2, 3, these are 4 sprues. So you're gonna have 4 sets of these, and they will make the wings of your giant TIE Fighter. So what I've done with, obviously, this bag is I've cut out the triangular solar panel pieces. I left the I left the spokes on here because I don't want to get them all mixed up, but these 2 sprues are just these sort of end pieces here, so these are trash now. But point being, you will get 4 sets of those sprues, and then you will assemble essentially halves of each wing. So you'll assemble each bag will have 3 of these solar panel pieces, and they'll piece up like this. So obviously these 3 from these sprues came to here. There's 3 more here, as you see. These 3 will piece up the top half of this wing, and then the associated sort of spokes here will glue down into these areas, and then that central piece will lock it all together. From what I've heard, this works actually quite well. I don't know how else you would do it for something this big, because I don't know if you can tell exactly how big this is, but this is 1/2 of a wing. So the other half of the wing is gonna come out to here. This is a bottle of Tamiya extra thin cement for reference. Yeah, so it's going to be a sizable piece of plastic. I don't know how they would have molded this successfully and efficiently as one piece. It probably could have been done, but I don't know if they wanted to do it or they wanted to have you be able to paint these separately. That would be nice, honestly, but I would want to make sure that I have these glued together very, very securely, just due to the size of the thing. And then it's not such a minuscule object that you won't be able to mask it. It's all straight edges. They come to sort of triangular points at the end. It's not like you're masking complex shapes. My personal recommendation, and probably how I'm going to do it, is I'm going to glue these together. Well, these solar panels, I'm going to glue these together flat on my cutting mat, and then I will add the spokes and make sure it's all locked down nicely, be able to test fit the whole thing together, and then paint it. I'm going to paint these solar panels first, or these black areas first, mask them off, paint the rest of the ship in that sort of, well, I'll say or whatever the Imperial blue-gray is. My build is not going to be in that finish completely, but you'll see on the Instagram and stuff like that later on. These fit together wonderfully. This is like a little sort of like puzzle latch kind of system, but obviously they won't hold together as like a snap kit, but these do work pretty well. There are some fairly large sprue attachment points, so be careful trimming those off. You're not really going to see them, even if you do mess them up. They're all on these sort of, let's see if I can find one. I cleaned them up a little bit. There's one, where is it? There's one like right there. You can see how that was cleaned up. So they don't have to be perfect because they're all going to be hidden away on these edges. There's none on these outside surfaces, obviously. And then these joints are going to be covered by those spoke pieces. So yeah, you don't have to be super crazy OCD about it, but just do a good job. And you obviously want to make sure when you do this, when you put it together, that there's no, like this isn't somehow not locked in completely. I mean, it'd be hard to do, but I mean, crazier things have happened. Then you have a sort of frame that goes along the outside here and locks this all together. So yeah, you can see how big this thing is. This is going to be a pretty large project. I'm not doing a regular Imperial TIE Fighter. It's going to be something interesting. It's going to be something colorful. I just gave it away probably. But yeah, so look forward to seeing updates on the channel about this. This is not that many parts. Honestly, building this, if you were just going to do it in the Imperial scheme with no lights, just a regular build, you could probably knock this out in maybe the span of like a weekend plus a couple days. You could probably get it mostly built in the span of a weekend, clean up the parts, and then kind of do the interior. You're not really going to see much if you don't put lights in it. The canopy glass is clear, but again, you're looking into a dark ball, so there's not much to see in there. And these wings, I've seen people do them. They're not crazy hard to do. They're just large. So clear yourself off a big area and then go from there. Well, so that's about it. That's AMT's new giant 1/32 scale sort of studio scale TIE Fighter. I'm really hoping that they do other ships from the new universe and the previous universe in this scale. This is a nice scale. If you're just displaying them, it's very impressive. If you're going to add lights and go crazy with detailing and show them off that way, that'll be even more impressive. And it kind of eliminates the need for you to go after either 3D printing your own kit, which is great, but if you don't have a 3D printer, it's not so great, or dealing with sort of very, very limited run garage kits that are of questionable quality. Some of them are great, some of them not so great. You do pay like $400, $500, $600 sometimes for a studio scale or a big scale Star Wars kit, and then you get it and it's not as great as you thought it was, or parts, whatever. This goes for about $70, $80. So for $70, $80, you get a massive TIE Fighter for your collection. I think it's a win-win. So looking forward to seeing more of these from AMT. This is a great start. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and yeah, join us for the next one. Keep up with updates on this on our Facebook page / Instagram. Again, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.